Kamen Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Kamen Rider here. Welcome to my long-awaited Kamen Rider Zero-One catch-up review. Some time ago, you may recall I sort of fell behind on both Zero-One and Ryusoulger, but I caught up on Ryusoulger before I got too far because the series was ending, and I just took a lot longer with Zero-One, not because I wasn't enjoying it, because when I started the show, I was really enjoying it. I just kind of hit this weird funk, and then I just never felt like going back. But the Toku bug hit me a little bit this week, or this last week or two, because I only had like 15 episodes to watch, but I kind of spread it out so I wouldn't get bored or whatever. I don't know. But the point is, I felt like watching it, so I finally caught up. It was kind of the perfect time. I don't remember the last episode I left off on. I believe it was just a couple before Shining Hopper's debut, since the first couple I watched was Shining Hopper's debut. But it was kind of perfect timing because I watched right through basically the very end of the original Metsubo arc, all of the competition Zaia arc, and now we're starting this new era. So it's kind of perfect to talk about essentially this solid chunk of the show and the very beginning of this next chunk of the show. And since there's a lot to go over, I'm going to try not to make this video too long, which is what I always say before it ends up being 19 minutes, but I'm not going to go over every individual thing, but just broad strokes. So to start, I'm just going to go over sort of a general opinion, and that I do find the show enjoyable. Since the beginning, I have enjoyed it. It's a very easy watch. It's got a good pace with the plot and the action, and I like the suits and all that stuff, which I'll get into in just a second. But it's an enjoyable show. It wasn't like a chore to watch. There was stuff that annoyed me for sure, but it's not like there was filler or just Geo being trash, which I did not enjoy. So it's a very enjoyable watch even when I have problems with it, so it made it a very easy catch-up. So I want to say that at the beginning. And then also at the beginning, I wanted to go over my thoughts on some of the suits, because I would do that normally during reviews when they debut, and a lot of them debuted. I'll be fairly quick. Shining Hopper, I really like a lot. I think it's a great super form of literally looking like a super form of the main one. I think it's unfortunate that it immediately got shelved, because we then debuted Shining Assault Hopper, which I like that form too. I think it also looks cool. I think the contrast of the yellow and blue looks good. I like the idea of this sort of hybrid with Blue's power-up. It kind of reminds me of Type Dat Heat in a way. I think that's a general cool idea of riders sharing power-ups and that hybrid aspect. I thought it was cool, but I did hate how Shining Hopper almost seemed unnecessary. And you'd think like, oh, the reason I did it was for toys, but the only difference between their two toys is the assault trigger attachment, so you didn't even really sell that many more toys. So I don't know what the point of that was. It makes Shining Hopper seem like irrelevant. And one other complaint I do have about Zero-One is they debut things too close together. Like when I was first catching up, it was like Shining Hopper, Assault Wolf, Shining Assault Hopper, what's his name? Zaia guy. And it's like all in a row, like episode after episode. They never let things breathe. And I remember that being a complaint when I was reviewing the show weekly when we were getting the ability forms and stuff like that. It's like every week was a debut and you never let things breathe. And that annoyed me. It wasn't as huge of a deal in the first half because it was just ability forms, but when it's like major debuts, it gets exhausting, and you have plenty of time in the series, like slow it down. But I just don't like that Shining Assault Wolf just took the place of Shining Hopper. I don't like that because I like Shining Hopper more and I found it to be kind of pointless. Speaking of Assault, I like Assault Wolf just fine. I think it's generally a neat design, but I think that it's a little bit, like the blue's a little bit too dull and there's a bit too much of one color on it, which is a problem with a couple of the suits that I have. And it kind of reminds me of like a US exclusive Bandai Power Rangers figure where it would have this just solid one color armor. I really absolutely love the Thouser suit. I think it's absolutely awesome. I love the general concept of combining a Prog Rise key with a Zetsumo Rise key. Really great suit. One of my favorites are the ones that have debuted. The Rising Falcon or whatever it is, the Jin power-up, also cool, but also has a little bit of that same problem of it being too one colory. And then Metal Cluster the Happa. Also, very cool suit. I like the general idea of it. I love the silver part. But it's just a little bit too much of one color and it needs a little more extra something to balance it out. But I want to be clear, I really do like the suits in this series. I have some nitpicks here and there, like as I just mentioned, but I really appreciate that we're kind of going back to a more classic feel in terms of, I feel like in recent years all the power-ups have been like tumor amalgams where it's like, wouldn't it be cool if we just glued all these big honkers to everywhere and like the gimmick, and like, no, it looks ugly. Why do you think this is appealing? And then like the belt would continuously get more attachments, and I like that these are more like cool suit evolution upgrades. The only one that's kind of an amalgam is the Shooting Wolf stuff, because you have like the different totems of all of the animals, but that's much more cool because it's not like you're gluing the cassette tapes everywhere. Who knows, maybe I'll be smacked down for this opinion later when the final form is him gluing all the progress keys to himself. But I like that these forms are much more traditional evolution suits and not like, okay, we're gonna glue the gimmick to you or do a weird amalgam of all these suits like we're crafting in the 5th grade. So I do appreciate that, and I wanted to talk about that real quick. So, like I said, when I was catching up, I basically came up on the end of the Metsubo Jinrai arc. Also, I don't know why, but after binging it, them fully saying the name Metsubo Jinrai Net every time annoys me. It's like, can you just shorten it? And then it also somehow annoys me that they don't say the .net. It's like, oh, where do you go find this? Oh, go to Google.com. Just, why aren't you saying the dot? It's like annoying me for not being long enough, and then annoying me for being too long. Like, they just need a shorthand for it. But the end of that arc was really cool, with the Shining Hopper debut, and there was some really epic stuff with the showdowns, and it felt like a series finale. And then we entered this next stage with Zaia Enterprise, where you discover he was sort of involved with ARC and all that stuff. And that main arc, which was the lion's share of what I just watched, was about Zaia Enterprises versus Hidden, and them doing this contest of proving Humagears or humans. And because, like, the general premise of the show is a Japanese youth fights for the right of toasters to take our place. Like, that's basically the bit. And I find it funny, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not fully on board with the message of the show of let's support Terminators. Like, I'm not on board for it. And one thing I did like about this arc, though, I found the Zaia vs. Hidden arc to be less entertaining than the original arc, because I think the original arc was filled, oddly enough, no pun intended, was filled with more of the stuff that I enjoy about Rider personally, which is a lot of the mystery and evolving the storytelling. And I feel like after the first Metsubo arc was done, there's not really very many questions anymore. There's maybe a couple little dangling mysteries, but a lot of it's just more of a philosophical debate, and I'm not as into it. Like I said, it's an enjoyable watch, but I'm not nearly as invested as I was when I first started it, because most of the questions have been answered, and now it's just this debate between different people's philosophies, and I don't find it even to be that interesting of a debate, which I'll get into in a second. But something I did like about the Zaia arc, circling back to that, was I like how they incorporated essentially the structure of the filler into the main plot. Like, don't get me wrong, I do not give a shirt about any of the filler characters from any of these arcs. But I do appreciate the fact that they took, like, essentially the filler arc structure of, like, focusing on certain characters and actually incorporated into what is the main plot. So it doesn't make you feel like the whole episode is useless. Like, you'll be watching often a Toku filler, mainly Sentai, for being honest, and like, wow, that was valueless. And so I like how they actually incorporated that, even if it wasn't as interesting. But I find it funny that Aruto's like, oh, Humagears will help us achieve our dreams together, and I'm gonna help us prove humans' dreams by proving that robots can do your job better than you and smack you down. Like, that's the way I saw it. And it's interesting, because I don't know whether they're trying to go for, like, an allegory for acceptance. I guess they are, but it's weird when it's robots, because there's movies about this where it's like, oh, this AI is just as human as us. But there's also movies where the robots are trying to kill us. And I feel like there was an episode, I think it was the real estate one, where the real estate human competitor was like, they're gonna steal all of our jobs, which is like a funny political, not a funny political statement, but you know, it's something you hear a lot in political discussions about certain things. I'm not gonna get heavy into that. But the thing is there's a difference between one person getting a job over another person because they're both people, and a machine taking someone's place. Because that's like a real thing that's happening in the world, where like automated systems and machines are taking certain jobs because they can now be done automated, and there's even some on the horizon. And that's like low-key a problem. Like, if someone's job at a factory gets stolen by a new machine, I'm not going to feel for the machine. And like, that real estate guy made a good point. Like, they're like cheap labor. Like, this is like a perfect situation for like the 1% to make a bunch of Humagears do the jobs and everyone else is SOL. Because like, the Humagears can be replaced endlessly. If something happens to them on the job, they can either replace it with the same one or replace it with a different one. And like, that's a legitimate point, and it's being pushed aside for Toku nonsense. So like, I'm just not, I don't know, the way they're representing it, I guess it depends on the lens in which they represent it and how successful they are. So it might be more successful for you than me. For me, I'm not really caring about the Humagears all that much. Like, there was the finale of the Zaia arc where they're like, get rid of Humagears, and I was like, yes! Because it's like, they're not real, they're just robots. So, but in this case, I feel like they're not presenting it well, because they're like, destroy the Humagears, and he's like, no, I'm like, I don't care what happens to the Humagears at all. But, I don't care what happens to the Humagears, but if you ever even kick BB-8, I will hunt you. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. It seems kind of weird. And also, it cuts down to this plot message that so many Toku, like almost like 95% of Toku villains wind up at this motivation of humans are trash, they don't deserve this earth, we're gonna take it. And it's always so hypocritical because it's like, oh man, humans are so bad, but we're gonna take over and be worse. I'm like, yeah, but you're a worse option, you evil robots or you evil monsters or whatever it is. And I'm really tired of that motivation about preaching about how, oh, humans are so awful, and it ties back to, but we have potential. It's like, yeah, we know we're trash. Can we move on and get a different motivation? Especially since Ryu Soldier's ending just recently had that same thing, where the final villain was like, oh yeah, humans suck. And that was basically what this is the human gears are like, oh, humans have so much malice and they suck. We're gonna show them by becoming murder bots. Like, I'm tired of that message, and like that's kind of why I've lost a little bit of interest in the plot, because there's not a lot of intrigue going on. It's just that same message with a different face. Also, speaking of that, so you have Arc, right, which was causing the Metsubo Jinrai stuff before, and now it's, even with the Metsubo Jinrai stuff defeated, it's causing this thing where when human gears experience human malice, the Arc will trigger them to become monsters. Now this hasn't appeared in the latest Arc yet. Why aren't they blowing up Arc? There was a line in an episode, I don't remember which one it was, where it made it seem like they didn't know where Arc was previously, which I thought they knew where it was, unless I misinterpreted that. But regardless, if they didn't know where Arc was, they should have been trying to find it. Why are they not blowing it up? Why aren't they going into that city and blowing it up, or airstriking that city? It's an empty city. That would, like, battle's over. Like, obviously now we're in a different stage where like Jin has singularity and he's separate from it, his motivations are separate. But I feel like the human public has a right to be scared of human gears, given that for like 7 months, at random, human gears can be taken over and just attack. Like, that would be terrifying if all of a sudden you're sitting there and Alexa turned into a squid monster and started attacking you. They're rightfully scared about basically Terminator bots, but most of it is being caused, or was being caused, by Arc. Why are they not getting rid of it? It makes no sense, probably because all the plots would be done, but like, maybe there was a reason given, and if there was, without even hearing it, I disagree with it. Blow up Arc, it's causing too much problems. Like, that alone would eliminate a lot of the debate about human gears, and so, there's that. But my overall point of that rant was, I think I was just ranting because there's some certain philosophical stuff they're getting into and that I'm just not enjoying, and also, like I said, that same debate of humans are trash, our villain group that's also worse than humans is so much better, so we're gonna take over. Like, no, you're worse than us, stop. I like that we're kind of doing these different arcs to keep the show flowing so that it doesn't feel like you're spinning your wheels. Like, we had the Metsubo arc, we had the Versus arc, and now we have this arc where Zaia's taken over and Aruto's making his own company now, and he had this really cool entrance when he became Zero-One again. It was nice to see the original form since it doesn't get done very much. So, I mean, I'm still enjoying the show. I just feel that a lot of what I was enjoying about sort of the mysteries and the evolving stuff has kind of been replaced by cutting to, like, normally what's the end, which is humans are trash, no we're not. But this time it's like humans and toasters are not trash. Just really quickly touching on characters, Aruto is a mixed bag. I think that, to give him some credit, I think they actually do a pretty good job of taking a usually annoying character type and giving him some endearing, actual human moments that make him feel less like a punchline. Again, I'm not fully on board with his human gear philosophy of toasters can help us achieve our dreams by replacing us. I do enjoy his relationship with Izu and watching her evolve a little bit. Like, I love, there was a couple bits where she actually makes jokes, so I've been enjoying that. I feel Vulcan's been balanced a little bit. It seems like he's targeting Zaia more once he discovers they're behind it. I feel like until these last couple episodes, Valkyrie has been basically sidelined, and I think that's unfortunate because she was always my favorite at the beginning because she was like a good balance between Aruto's like, toasters are our hope, and Vulcan's like, I hate toasters, and she's like, toasters are just for toast. She's been getting a little bit more focus, and she has this new Raid Riser Jackal form, which looks cool, but I kind of would have rather her gotten an actual rider power-up. We don't know why Jin's back. He's got a new confidence, a new groove, doing his generic free robots from humanity bit. Like, you're no Dolores, like, come on. So, you know this show just a lame version of Westworld. Froby's also kind of been sidelined, but he was mainly tied up too. I think it'd be interesting if there was a conflict between these two of like Hirobi, like old school Metsubo loyalist, and Jin being kind of a more free-thinking singularity guy because he's helping Zero-One. And I was worried, based on the beginning and based on the track record of Rider in recent years, that all of these sort of third or fourth Riders that were villains or rogues literally with some of them being called rogue, wound up becoming good, and I thought that was boring. I was worried that was going to happen with him, and then it didn't, but now I'm worried again because I feel like he's going to come around to Aruto's streaking, and they're going to, you know, come together to work on this, so I think that still might happen. As much as I love Thouser's suit, he has a very punchable face, and I find him to be generally annoying and pretentious. I mean, in this episode, he was just wearing white gloves in public for no reason. What's your problem? All I can really think of the broad strokes of my thoughts that have been happening, and we're at 16 minutes now. I'm going to make this under 19 minutes and fulfill my promise. So to sum it up, I have been enjoying the show in terms of, like I said, it's a very easy watch. I like the action, I like the suits. I'm just not a fan of the show taking a direction away from some of the plot I liked and doing more debates about stuff. I'm still enjoying it to the point where I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the series and see how it unfolds. And so I will be trying to review it more regularly from here on out. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. At present, I am reviewing Kara Major weekly. I might try that for a bit with Zero-One, but I'm going to try to sort of fall into my classic pattern of planning on reviewing it weekly unless either the schedule is filled with other reviews because it's a busy review week, or if it's an arc where it's clear it's going to be a two-parter and it'd be better to talk about it as such. Sometimes there are two-parters where you really want to talk about the first part to speculate on the second one, but then sometimes there's some where it's just like a setup and you're going to need the second part to make a full video about it. So I guess my point is, I'm going to try to make regular videos through the end of the series and not fall behind again. I don't foresee a larger catch-up video happening unless it's something like 3 or 4 episodes. But overall, I would give my experience with Zero-One as of right now a solid 7, 7.5, somewhere in the middle of there depending on the week. But what do you guys think? Have you been enjoying Zero-One this year? I'd like to know what your thoughts are on the show as it has evolved. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.